So I want to talk about kind of like the framework of like the promises of God. God gives you a promise. That like the promise and what that is, it's like the promise for a new beginning, right? A hope in a future that's not built upon your work ethic. It's not built upon your effort at all. It's not built upon you. And so in order for us to even get in a position, he must position us. But it is this end of the road. This is to me is where right before the promise comes, you're in the desert, you're in the dry place, right? Like the what are they? The people that went into the wilderness, they were from Egypt, Israelites or whatever. Like they didn't go from Egypt to the promised land because they still had Egypt in their mind. They still had the delusion of slavery and bondage in their mind. This I must fend for myself, take care of myself thing. This orphan spirit type thing. And so that had to be taken out of them in the wilderness, right? It's like God took them out of Egypt and then took them into the wilderness to take Egypt out of them. So that when they get to the promised land, there isn't this bondage mindset that Egypt brought, right? Because if you were to take from Egypt just to the promised land, they would still feel like they're in bondage because they had to be purged of what they were in. And so I believe that like kind of the conditions of him setting up this promise for you is this exposure of where you really are and what you believe. And there seems to be no running from it. And he allows the enemy to press on you in these influences of fear to expose where you really are, to continuously expose where you are. And instead of him delivering you right away, he points to the promise that he has promised you. So then you begin to live by faith in such a, I feel like, higher degree. Your faith is really built in this place because he allows the enemy to press on you. And what you're told is to wait on him. You're told to be still and know that he is God. And basically not much else. You must endure through this. You endure through being pressed on like this. But it's pressing you and I heard someone say it like this, it's your own personal hell. It's the places that you feel that you will die. But it stirs up this authentic, each time it's pressed on you, it stirs up this authentic hunger and thirst for righteousness to know the truth about who you really are. Because in this place where you're being pressed on, right? In the wilderness where you're being influenced by fear, there comes this understanding that part of the promise that's going to be given to you is this understanding of the truth and who you really are. That then is going to deal with your current fear influenced situation. It points to your ignorance as we walk through these things in the wilderness with him. Your ignorance is exploited by the enemy, and in this authentic hunger and thirst to know the truth, but you're not given the truth right there in the wilderness. You're instead given a promise, and instead of you getting immediate relief, you're having to endure. And so faith and trust are building in the dark. And he is positioning you to look to him to all things, because you find how helpless you are and how much you cannot move yourself even an inch. Because even if you were to go and try to get something for yourself, you would see how futile it is to build anything in your own strength. Because he starts to reveal to you the truth of things in the wilderness. That yeah, you can have a bigger house, but all you really have is like a bigger bathroom and a bigger kitchen. More rooms. Like you see the truth. You're like, that's not an upgrade. That's not a glow up. That's nothing. And nothing can save me from these lies that I have believed about myself. These influences of fear that have been pressed on me. Will anyone deliver me from this? You see over and over that you cannot deliver yourself from this. And instead of him delivering you right away, he points to the promise that the hope in the future is going to be built upon him and him alone. This new life. The old life is coming to an end. You working for yourself. You believing that it's on you. that's coming to an end, and how much you are influenced in that area, because the enemy will press on you, and it's like, well, what are you going to do about it? What are you going to do about it? What are you going to do about it? It's like nothing's changing for you. It's just getting drier and drier and drier. And you are so weary from just having to endure that you have nothing to fight anymore. And I think that, again, that's him positioning you for deeper trust and faith, because he's going to be the one that comes through, and he's your defender. And you really it just requires everything to just remain. But I find it interesting that that's the place that the enemy will press on you. It's in your ignorance concerning who you really are. Because if you knew who you really were, it wouldn't influence you. It wouldn't be like it's been. But because there's access to the fear that you still believe. And this, to me, is what really gets you. Because when you see it, it's like black and white. When you see it, there's no distraction. You cannot save yourself from the delusion that you believe. You must be delivered from the delusion that you believe. And I believe that you were set up to be set up, to know your helplessness, your weakness, your inability in this dry place. And know over and over and over in every area as time goes on, if he doesn't make a way, there won't be a way. If he doesn't make a way, there won't be a way. There is no way forward. I see nothing. He has to be the way. I don't know how he's going to do it, but I feel like the more that I'm sitting in this desert and I'm being pressed on by the enemy, I'm seeing all the ways that it can't work. All the ways that all these doors are shut. Because all of them have depended upon my effort and my ability and my knowing. And I realize how futile I am in my own strength. That he must come and give me a fresh understanding. That's the only way that I'm going to elevate. That's the only way.